Hello, my dear students in language school. Today I'm gonna tell you how to study literature. Before we study literature, we must know what are the elements of literature. This is just an introduction to literature and the elements of literature. What are the elements of literature? As you can see, literally elements are common literary devices found in all literature. Today we will focus on fiction, not drama. In all kinds or all types of literature, we must have six basic elements. Six basic elements. We will never find a successful piece of literature which doesn't have these five elements, six elements. What are the six elements we are going to talk about today? Element number one, point of view. Number two, setting. Number three, characters or characterization. Number four, theme. Number five, plot. And number six, conflict. Okay, these elements of literature are very, very important. Let's talk about element number one, plot. Plot. What's the plot? What's plot? Plot is the structure or organization of events that make up a fictional story. It's the structure or organization of events. But how do we organize events? Number one, we start with the exposition. What's exposition? It means the beginning or the introduction. Like, what do we have in the introduction of any story? The conflict, the characters, and the setting. Then we have the rising action. The rising action. Events before the climax. The characters attempt to solve the problem, but he fails. This is the rising action. Then we have the climax. We have the climax. The climax is the turning point in the story in which we have suspense, the point of greatest suspense or action. Then we have the folding action or the actions and the events that occur after the climax. And at the end of any story, we have the resolution, and it is the end of the story where all the conflicts or problems are solved. So, whenever you are writing a story or reading a story, try to know or decide what is the rising action, the climax, and how will you solve this problem. So, we must have a problem. Then, guys, we'll talk about element number two, which is the point of view. The point of view. What does it mean, the point of view? Any story is written in one of these three points of view. Point of view, the narrator. Who is talking? Is it first person? Is it second person? Or is it third person? A first person point of view, like I'm saying I or we, I'm talking about myself. I'm writing about myself. Say I. So the narrator is uses the first person. He is telling me his own story. Okay? First person point of view, we use I or we. In second person point of view uses you or your. You, second point of view, as if you are talking about someone. You are talking to someone. Number three, the third person point of view, which means the third person, he or she or it. So you are telling me the story of someone else. You are talking or writing about someone else. Element number three is the theme. Actually, guys, the theme is one of the most important elements because the theme is the general idea or the repeated idea in the story. So, what is the theme of this story? It means what does the story focus on? What is the main idea of the story? What is the general idea of the story? So, theme is the general idea or insight about life that a work of literature reveals. The theme is the main idea or strong message tied to life. Theme threads itself through a story, chapter, or scene to make a point about life, society, or human nature. So the theme is the main general idea of the piece of writing or of the story. Why this story written? To talk about what? To discuss what? But this is a theme. Usually we have more than one theme in a story, and most of these themes are related to the characters. Most of these themes are related to the characters. Characters. Characters are fictional people in a story. Of course, they are not real, they are fictional. We have three types of characters: the main characters, the minor characters, and the incidental characters. The main characters are the focus of the reader's attention because we focus on the main characters. We care about the main characters. Main characters, we have the protagonist. We have the protagonist. Well, the protagonist is the most important character, the hero of the story. The hero, the most important character in the story. He is involved in the main conflict, may or may not be the good guy. Then we have the antagonist or the anti-hero. The anti-hero. The antagonist is what opposes the protagonist. He is a character or a group, may or may not be the bad guy, but this is revealed in the climax and in the resolution at the end of the story. Then we have the minor characters. Well, minor characters actually, guys, contribute to the reader's attention. They help develop the main characters, will help develop the plot of the story. Okay, so the minor characters are important just to keep the events going on. Then we have the incidental characters. They fill out the rest of the story. They are not our focus, they are not the reader's focus of attention because they are just helping us keep the events going on. The setting. The setting, guys, generally provide the time and the place of a specific scene or chapter, the entire story, a play, or a narrative poem. The setting means the time and the place of the story, the time and the place where and when the events take place. A setting can also include the mood of the time period, situation, or event. Conflict, my favorite element. In conflict, we have different types of conflict. Let's talk about them in detail. Character versus society. So there is conflict between character and society. In the In this conflict, the person or people, they suffer from situations, maybe social, maybe political situations in society. So they don't like it. They want to change it and they try to. Character versus self. Character versus self. This conflict is internal conflict, or as we call it, inner conflict. It is those conflicts an individual has with his own conscience. So a person doesn't like what he is doing and he wants to change it, but he is suffering and fighting his inner self all the time. Let's talk about conflict in detail. Types of conflict. Person versus person conflict. يعني versus person, it means like a person, a character in the story, is fighting with another character in the same story. They are fighting all the time. Person versus society conflict, as we said before. Person versus nature conflict. The character is often alone dealing with nature in extreme circumstances, so the character is fighting nature to survive. Person versus fate or supernatural conflict, as we call it, supernatural conflict. Person versus self conflict, and this is the most difficult, the most complicated conflict of all. Person versus self, or inner conflict, or internal conflict. The person is conflicted with the childhood memories, unpleasant experiences, or issues with the stress and decision making. Now, guys, I will suggest you some novels, some pieces of literature to read. And please, while reading these stories, either you choose to read the simplified version or the original one, try to extract or define the elements of literature which we have just mentioned. Charles Dickens' masterpieces. Now, guys, I'd like you to start with novels written by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens' masterpieces. Charles Dickens' best pieces of writings, best novels. Number one, Oliver Twist. Oliver Twist. David Copperfield, A Christmas Carol, and A Tale of Two Cities. And please try to go by the same order as I mentioned. Thank you so much. We have finished this video. Hope you like it. Please, if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel and write me in the comments. Thank you so much and goodbye.